Right, that for sure. All right, the mic is all yours, Susan Michelle, Myrna Skoller. Happy Monday. Happy surrender to joy.
Yes, same here, honey.
Hi, this is Susan Michelle. I am here in Western Massachusetts. It is so great to be here, and I'm super excited. My beautiful friend and soul sister from Boca Raton, Florida, is here with me, Myrna Skoller. How are you, Myrna?
Very relaxed after a week's trip on a cruise, feeling relaxed, feeling good. The weather here is not great. We're having a cold front, which is expected, I guess, given the weather conditions that are, surrounding the planet right now. It's very cold everywhere. It must be freezing where you are. Yeah.
Yeah, we had a snowstorm here in Massachusetts. It
Hmm.
started last night. It went into, well, I think it stopped at about 3 a.m., 4 a.m. It's not as bad as they predicted, but
Hmm.
it's 14 degrees when I got up, so it's definitely cold.
Yeah.
Um, it is what it is. I guess the cold in Massachusetts helps us to appreciate the warmth, which you have most of the time in Florida, and I'm always jealous about that. I am the author of Surrender to Joy From Suicide to Serenity. I teach the transformational truth of A Course in Miracles, which we are all here to study, to learn, to embody the knowledge of. Myrna Skoller is the author of Private Lessons with Jesus from A Course in Miracles, along with 5 other books. And her book, Private Lessons with Jesus, goes along perfectly with the workbook for students in A Course in Miracles. And I love that book. I will start off, as I usually do, with the introduction from my book, because it always helps me to remember who I am. And it cites the primary truth of A Course in Miracles. What I write in my introduction is my passion is God. God is love and joy and beauty. He is all that is good in the world. Everything else is our own miscreation. When we are filled with joy, we are connected to God. When we are not joyful, we have lost our connection to all that is real. This is my message. It can be clarified with 3 simple words: surrender to joy. There is nothing to find. All we need to do is surrender. So, as A Course in Miracles says, nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. The only thing that's real is the love. So when I am seeing the beauty in you, Myrna, when I am seeing the beauty in my brother, I am seeing the truth of who you are, and I am feeling the truth of who I am. And if I am not seeing the beauty, I am coming from a place of fear, and that is not of God and it's not real. So I've been again listening to A Course in Miracles on Audible. I mean, it's really just impactful, profound, uh, life changing, what A Course in Miracles is teaching us. A Course in Miracles is teaching us that when we are seeing the beauty in our brother, seeing the love in our brother, we are aligning our minds with the truth of who we are. We're aligning our minds with the mind of God, and we are thinking clearly. When we are not, when we are projecting fear, we're basically not thinking. That's what A Course in Miracles says. When we are projecting our fear in any way, we are actually not thinking. The only thing that's real is the love. And it is a discipline to connect to that energy throughout the day. It is a discipline to align our mind with the mind of God on a consistent basis. But when we do, we feel the peace, love, joy, and happiness of God. We align ourselves with the truth of who we are. And the more we can do it, the more we are able to be a conduit for God's divine miracles. And that is what we are here to do. It's like when we align our will with the will of God, we are at peace. When we don't align our will with the will of God, we feel the angst of the ego. So we strive to connect with God, not only for God's sake, but for our own sake, because aligning ourselves with God is the only thing that will make us happy, that will give us the happiness, the peace, love, joy, and happiness that our soul is searching for. Right, Myrna?
I like the way you put that. Yes, because really it says it all. And the word fear really resonates with me because through my life, I was able to, determine that when I was fearful, you're rejecting God because you're not trusting. The fear takes over, and fear is not of God; it's strictly a human emotion, and it really it hampers our growth. It does. I've learned that. So the more we trust, the more we get into the trust factor, the less we have to go into the mode of fear, which doesn't feel good, which, as I said, it thwarts our growth. And it doesn't allow us to move forward. It doesn't allow us to see things as they truly are. It eradicates the reality of who we are. Fear is strictly an ego emotion. It is a human emotion. I'm not saying that we can do away with fear completely. We're going to have fear. I mean, fear does come up, but it's how we handle the fear that really generates the truth of who we are to ourselves and our brothers and sisters as well. I'm able to see that when I'm, having a fear moment. I do try to eradicate that fearful thought, whatever it may be, whether it be something that I think I might have lost, whether I think when I get out of the present moment and go into, that ego thought system, whereas our mind starts to race ahead of ourselves, that definitely evokes fear sometimes. And I'm able to catch it and say, no, 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 this is a stupid thought. And I jump out of it. I jump out of that box into where I really want to be. Things happen then. Things start to, because when you're erasing all that quagmire, that's really floating around and really erasing the aspect of the calm that we need to feel, it does us no good. But then when that happens, when we do find ourselves in that moment, those moments of peace, joy, happiness, surrender, we do see the miracles that evolve. We see our brothers more clearly. We see our life, and we absolutely can touch the grace of God within ourselves, within that realm. When we're really in the moment, and when you're in the moment, there is no fear, and there is nothing to be objective about. We can only be positive. It's such a good feeling. It is such a great feeling. We read about it, we talk about it, but when you start to truly live it, and that's really what the course's whole dynamic is all about, to teach us to live the truth, the truth. The course talks about the truth of who we are. And today's lesson, which is I am determined to see. There we go again. That is trying to tell us, it tells us in no uncertain terms that, that we need to really step into understanding what true sight is. And I am determined to see. And I think when we make that affirmation, I am determined to see, it brings us to wanting to know the truth. Right, Susan? Do you feel that way?
I do. I do. I love today's lesson. I really do. It's very, I mean, I think the lessons up until today are about undoing past conditioning. And today it's very clear that it's talking about what we're striving for, what our goal is. And I like that very much. I read it over in depth before I went into my morning meditation. And in my meditation, I focused on the words, the subject of today's lesson. I am determined to see. I am determined to see the beauty in my brother. I am just determined to see through the eyes of Christ. I am determined to see God's divine potential within everyone I meet. I mean, it's just a very, very empowering lesson, because when we see through the eyes of Christ, when we see through the eyes of truth, when we see through the eyes of love, we are connected to the truth of who we are. I mean, that's what Jesus did when he was alive in body form. He saw the beauty in all of his brothers, and by him focusing on the good and the loving nature within his brother, they were able to embody the love within themselves. And I believe that's what created the healing that happened when he was here in body form. And that's what he is teaching us to do now through the writing of A Course in Miracles. Fear. What is fear? The Course in Miracles acronym that I hear often is false evidence appearing real. Fear is an illusion. It's not really happening. I mean, here in chapter 2, in Roman numeral 6, Jesus talks about fear and conflict. And I have a few highlighted and underlined lines in this section because I think it's very impactful. Jesus writes, whenever you are afraid, it is a sure sign that you have allowed your mind to miscreate and have not allowed me to guide it. Think about that. Whenever I'm afraid, which is sometimes more often than I would like it to be, but whenever I am afraid, whenever I am in angst, whenever I am doubting, I am doubting the power of love. Jesus is telling us here that it is a sure sign that I have allowed my mind to miscreate. What am I doing? I'm not trusting. I'm not trusting that God is going to provide for me. So I am just not seeing clearly. I'm not seeing with the truth that's in my mind. I am allowing my mind to miscreate. It says here in A Course in Miracles that I am much too tolerant of mind wandering. So when I am afraid, I'm allowing my mind to wander, and that is not of God. So then in the paragraph below that one, Jesus writes, the correction of fear is your responsibility. When you ask for release from fear, you are implying that it is not. Like Jesus can't, or Christ, or God, or the Holy Spirit, they cannot eradicate the fear, because the fear is not real. So, what Jesus is telling us here is that it's my responsibility to release that fear. I mean, I believe I can ask the Holy Spirit to help me. A Course in Miracles tells us that the Holy Spirit needs a little willingness, but it is my responsibility. God can't just take away my fear because I have free choice. I have to want to release that fear. I have to focus on the truth of who I am. I have to align my mind with the thoughts of God. It's my responsibility to release the fear. So you should ask instead for help in the conditions that have brought the fear about. These conditions always entail a willingness to be separate. I am afraid because I think I'm alone. I'm afraid because I think that I'm separate from my creator. That's why I'm afraid. And then he writes here, at that level, you can help it. And then I have this starred and underlined and highlighted. You are much too tolerant of mind wandering and are passively condoning your mind's miscreations. I mean, that's amazing what our mind does when we are not guarding our thoughts, when we are not taking the time to connect to God, to connect to Christ consciousness, to connect to love. That's why I love my morning meditations, because I kind of take back my power. You know, I focus on light, I focus on love, and it's there and it's available for me whenever I choose to tap into it. Whenever I choose to connect to God, He is there waiting for me with open arms. I mean, it's just amazing how much power I have, you know, and that's miraculous. Okay, and then to finish this paragraph, which I will do, the particular result does not matter, but the fundamental error does. The correction is always the same. Ooh, this is so exciting. He writes here, before you choose to do anything, ask me if your choice is in accord with mine. If you are sure that it is, there will be no fear. So if I choose to do what God wills for me, there is no fear associated with that decision because it's God's will. I love that. It's about basically allowing my will with a small w to surrender that to his will with a capital W. And there will be no fear, there will be no strain, there will be no judgment. So that's it's just very beautiful, isn't it, Myrna?
Great. It is, it is really miraculous. When I think about when I first started with the Course in Miracles, I thought that it was something that I needed to understand. I have to understand it. So when you go through the Course in Miracles, you're looking to understand it, which, on that basis, it really, you know that you're going in the wrong direction, but it's very hard to remember exactly what you should be, what it takes to relieve yourself of. We talked about fear, and it's very hard to remember that. But when you start to understand that it's not about understanding, it's about living it, then it becomes much easier. And I like what you really just said about when we let go and let God, and we feel assured that it's okay. But I like what you said too when he said, ask me about, in everything you do. How many of us remember to ask Jesus, ask God, ask Holy Spirit, whatever it is you look to or seek to pray to, doesn't matter. As long as you have that connection and you're able to establish it within yourself, there's nothing like it. And I always talk about Jesus. He's my savior. He's my everything. And once you get into the habit of asking, it does become easier. And when you make a mistake and things don't go right, it's because we forgot to ask. How can anything go wrong if we ask and feel assured that now the answer is coming to me and we act on it? How could it possibly go wrong? Is that what Jesus is there for? Is he there just to listen, or is he there to create the miracles that cause us to now to recognize that we're in that great beauty of the soul that connects to everything, because once you open up to that, it happens, it just does, and therefore the miracles start to unravel and start to show themselves. I mean, I've seen miracles a thousand times over. um, and I never, truthfully, I never do anything really without asking Jesus first. Because if I don't, and I rely on myself, then I realize that I forgot to ask, and then the unsureness, creeps up. But when you ask and you have that sure knowledge that it can't go wrong, whatever it is that you anticipate, that you want, anything that you want, uh, Jesus can make come true, if it's to your benefit. I mean, if we can ask for things that are not going to be to our benefit, well, only He would know whether that's sane or not. But if our thoughts, our questions, our prayers come from a place of complete sanity, recognition, and connection to the spirit of all that is, then there's nothing that can go wrong. And I've seen that. I've seen that work for me many times over. I mean, I realize that of myself, I can do nothing, because I have gotten out of so many scrapes because of the love that has helped me, skirt the devastation that I probably would be headed towards. So this is not in vain. It isn't. And the Course in Miracles is the roadmap which we need in which to travel it is a distance that we're traveling. Sure, we can get it all in an instant. All you need to do is just read one affirmation, and if you truly get it, that's all you need to do. But the reason that the Course in Miracles is so lengthy and it repeats itself over and over and over again in different ways is because it knows that we need to get it and to live it. And then when that snaps in, that we really don't need the Course anymore. We really don't. I mean, I pick up a lesson here and there, and and it warms my heart, but that's really what I need it for at this point, to just feel the goodness that comes from it. Hi, Regis. How are you, dear? How have you been? What do you have to say about all of this?
Well, whenever Regis wants to share, just raise your hand, Regis, because
Exactly.
you are a very wise being, and I love
Yeah.
everything you say. So, just are you gonna? Okay, just raise your hand and share if you'd
Or
like.
clap your hands.
But I love everything that Myrna said too. It reminded me of so many things here, and you said you don't need the course anymore, which is the whole goal of the course. The whole goal of the course is to lead us to our own inner teacher, and that's what I love about the course. It says right here, the course makes no claim to finality, nor are the workbook lessons intended to bring the student's learning to completion. At the end, the reader is left in the hands of his or her own internal teacher, who will direct all subsequent learning as he sees fit. I love that. I love that because we all have, God's divine truth within our heart, I'm using the heart metaphorically. We have God's divine truth within us, and A Course in Miracles is helping us to connect to the truth of who we are, and that's miraculous and that's beautiful. And we don't need the Course. What we do is we need to release our ego. We need to release our fear so we can listen to God's divine wisdom all the time. I mean, that's what enlightenment is. That's what awakening is, listening to God's divine wisdom all the time and releasing the fear. And then you spoke about how we really can say one affirmation and connect to the truth. And we can. I mean, that's, I guess, what A Course in Miracles referred to as the holy instant. In the holy instant, we remember who we are, we remember the love that's within us. And that's just mind-blowing, miraculous experience. And then I think what's primary is just trust, the acronym, to rely upon spirit totally. When we can totally trust in God's divine power and God's divine wisdom and God's divine beauty, there is no room for fear. There is no room for fear. And we've all experienced that. Again, this is what A Course in Miracles is teaching us to do. And you have recited this many times, Myrna, and I love this paragraph in the Manual for Teacher. It says, when this power has once been experienced, the power of God, the power of love, the power of release, the power of surrender, when this power has once been experienced, it is impossible to trust one's own petty strength again. Why would I want to trust my my own petty strength when the power of God is available to me whenever I ask? And that's what I am a part of, like God is the sun and I am a ray, but the whole light of the sun, the whole power of the sun, the whole magnificence of the sun is available to me whenever I surrender to it, whenever I ask for God's help and allow his love to come into my heart. All his strength and his beauty and his love is available to me. And then it says here in this paragraph, who would attempt to fly with the tiny wings of a sparrow when the mighty power of an eagle has been given him? And who would place his faith in the shabby offerings of the ego when the gifts of God are laid before him? What is it that induces them to make the shift? So we just need to remember that we don't need to rely on our own strength. God doesn't want us to rely on our own strength. He wants us to be completely dependent on him, because God needs us as much as we need him, because he created us in his image. So he wants us to be completely dependent on him. And when we can allow ourselves to surrender to his will for us, I mean, that's what true peace, love, joy, and happiness is all about. We need him. That's the only thing we need. We think we need the job. We think we need the man, or we think we need the woman, or we think we need the money, or we think we need the body, but we don't need any of that stuff. God doesn't want to take away things of the world from us, but he wants us to understand that the only thing that can make us truly happy is complete surrender to him, complete dependence upon him. That's the only thing that can satisfy our soul's deepest yearning, is completely surrendering to God. A Course in Miracles also tells us that is the only thing that can make us happy. That is the only thing that can bring us the joy that our heart desires. But on some level, we're afraid of it. our ego is afraid of all that love, because we feel like an egoic mindset, which we all have, we're going to disappear. Like if we surrender to all that love, we're going to disappear. And the truth is, if we surrender to all that love, we will disappear, but we're going to have everything that we want. So it's fine if the ego disappears and we completely connect to God. You know, it's a state that few have entered into on an ongoing basis, but it is available to all of us, right, Myrna?
Yeah. You talk about depending on God. I mean, before I was privy to all of this, my ego would tell me, well, you don't want to be selfish. You don't want to ask for too much. If
Mm.
you're asking for too much, it's just, it's almost embarrassing. I mean, how else can I put it? But this is the way I used to think. I can only ask for this much. Asking for that much is really going over the top. But, it's so nice to let go and recognize that anything, ask God for anything. Once that became clear to me through the Course in Miracles, that was a big relief. You mean I can ask for anything? I can rely on you for everything? I mean, this was a very big, and a big realization for me, recognizing that it's there for me, and that yeah, I don't want to rely. I don't want to rely on myself. I don't want to rely on the ego because it steers me wrong. Whereas to know the difference is a big eye opener as well. To know the difference between relying on yourself to make decisions that are not necessary to do when you come to a crossroad and you don't know what to do. Just, yeah, leave it up to God. Leave it up. I always use Jesus. I talk about Jesus because that is the connection that I've made, that I feel. I feel within my soul. I mean, He's with me always. It's so hard to describe. Even when I drive, I drive and I ask Jesus to drive for me, I don't want to get into an accident. And the answer always comes to me, well, I'll drive for you, but you have to be alert. So now I know to be alert as long as he's doing the driving. I swear this is true. And I know I'm not going to get into an accident. I just know it, it's just an incredible a source in which to draw all that you need from. And it works. It just does. It works. It emboldens you. It makes you less fearful because there's nothing to be afraid of when you're resting on the great power of the source by which we were created. And this, there's just no limit, really. It becomes limitless. And so, Jesus, the Course in Miracles tells us that that we don't need to depend on our own little meagerly strength when we have the power, the all power of God to rest within. And what more is there really? I go by my day, and I've gotten it. I know that I have it. I know that I live it. I know it, and that's the joy I feel too, knowing that I do live it. And things happen, that make no sense to benefit me, being in the right place at the right time, um, being averting a condition, okay, that we would have, you know, been in trouble with if we hadn't made that decision at the moment to do something else. It's always, I always say, my God, if I was there 5 minutes before, that thing would have fallen on my head, things of that sort, really. So all these, things come about that give us the idea, the notion, and the understanding that it's all available there. It's all there for us. It's just there just reach out for it. and it's so hard to describe. I know how I feel, but the describing of it is never as vast as is the truth of the way I feel. Go ahead, Regis.
Thank you, Myrna and Susan. You reminded me both of this song, this gospel hymn, uh, What a Friend We Have in Jesus. And one of the prominent lines in that song says, "Oh, what peace we often forfeit. Oh, what needless pains we do not bear. All because we do not carry everything to God in prayer." And it's just, like you're saying, it's just so needless uh, to not take or realize that we are God, that we can take everything to God. Uh, there's nothing that's out of bounds or asking for too much or being an imposition or, oh, this is trivial. I can handle this myself. That is just such an ego.
Imposition. That
Uh,
was the word I was looking for.
yeah,
Yes, you got,
yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah. So it's, um, and I love Susan's analogy. I don't think I've ever heard that analogy or metaphor before with the sun and the ray. And as you was talking about, we get focused on the ray. That's just the little ray. So in our life, we just focus on these little things, whether it's taking out the trash or paying a bill or whatever, or health or bigger, 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 whatever. But it's still in comparison to the whole sun, it's just a little something. And we forget that we are the whole sun. I think I'm just a ray and this is all I can do, or this is all my resources that I can kind of think about or figure, I can check my uh, bank account and I can look at my body and determine I'm only 120 pounds and I can only do so much, But we are the whole sun. We're not just a ray. And I like to say we just need to remember, uh, not even surrender. I don't think it's sometimes a matter of surrendering as much as it is a matter of remembering. Wait a minute, I'm not just a ray. you know, I'm the whole sun here. I have everything at my disposal. Uh, and all I have to do is just remember it. Uh, and sometimes uh, that brings us just a huge amount of peace when we just realize, oh, I've forgotten who I am. Oh, let me remember who I am. And even before the problem is solved, there's a big flooding of peace and joy because we know that the problem is solved. The moment we remember who we are, we know that the problem is solved, that uh, uh, the problem is not even a problem anymore because in that realization of who I am and what I have at my disposal, I know in that moment all is well.
Thank you, Regis. Thank you very much. So much. You have so much wisdom. Thank you. Thank you. You helped me to remember so much. Um, starting with Myrna's analogy with Jesus, I think that we've all felt like that. I don't want to bother God. I remember as a child, he has so many children, and that need him. My concerns are just trivial. So I don't want to bother him, but it's not true. The Course in Miracles says it's not that we ask for too much, is that we ask for too little.
Yes.
God loves when he asks us to direct our thoughts, to direct our day. Like God loves when we are completely dependent on him. And by me surrendering to his will, or by me turning over my will to his will, I'm not taking away from the sonship. I'm actually adding to the sonship. I'm making the sonship stronger by my dependence upon him. Isn't that interesting how that works? Because it's completely opposite of what I learned as a kid, or what I thought as a kid. Oh, if I ask for something, I'm going to take his time away from someone who really needs him. But that's not true. If I ask him to direct my thoughts, I'm going to add more to the sonship. If I allow him to love me and I allow him to guide me, I'm going to add more to the sonship. So again, it's not that we ask for too much, it's that we ask for too little. And another thing that came to me while you were talking, it's I remember as a child too, I learned from my mother that it was very spiritual for me to stay humble and for me to stay small. But again, when I stay small, you know, God weeps. Not that God can really weep, but he doesn't want me to stay small, like that Marianne Williamson poem that I love so much. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. So it's not of God to stay humble. It's not of God to stay small, but there's a huge difference between being arrogant and surrendering to the greatness of God. There's a huge difference between grandiose thinking and just kind of stepping into the truth of who we are. That's what Jesus did when he was alive. That's, I think, why he got crucified. He said that he was God, and they said back at that time, well, who are you to be God? That's blasphemous. You can't say that you are God. You need to remain humble. You need to stay small. And he says, no, I am God, but it wasn't in a arrogant way. It was in a truthful way. In the same way that Jesus said that he was God, we are all sons and daughters of God. And again, this is what he is teaching us through the writings of A Course in Miracles, that we all have the power of God with us all the time. I was opening my workbook to lesson 20, which is today's lesson, but I kind of mistakenly stopped at lesson 164, which is so analogous to what Regis just said. Lesson 164 states, now are we one with him who is our source. We are one with him with a capital H, who is our source with a capital S. And then it goes on to say, what time but now can truth be recognized? The only time there is right here, right now, time on a vertical axis. This is the only time I can remember God. I don't have to wait till tomorrow, I don't have to think back to the past. Now is the only time there is. And that's the next line. The present is the only time there is. And so today, this instant now, we come to look upon what is forever there, not in our sight. Ooh, I mean, when you take in these words, they're so beautiful. It says here, not in our sight, but in the eyes of Christ. So it's not in my sight. It's when I'm looking at the world through the eyes of Christ. And it doesn't mean Jesus Christ. It means Susan Christ. It means Regis Christ. It means Myrna Christ, Linda Christ. We all can look at the world through the eyes of Christ. And that's what brings joy to our heart and our souls and our beings. He looks past time and sees eternity as represented there. He hears the sounds the senseless, busy world engenders, yet he hears them faintly. For beyond them all, he hears the song of heaven and the voice for God more clear, more meaningful, more near. And then the next paragraph starts with the world fades easily away before his sight. So when we are looking at the world through the eyes of Christ, when we're looking at the world through the truth, we just see so much beauty and feel so much love. And it's not like we have to fight the fear. The fear just disappears. There is no fear. When we're connected to the truth of who we are, there is no fear because the truth of who we are is love, is God.
You know, you were when you was talking about not playing it small and how sometimes it can be interpreted as arrogance, but you also on the reverse side, um, to this world, to rest in God and to feel safe, you're looked upon as arrogant or crazy or both. When everybody's saying, be afraid, be in a panic, be in an uproar, don't you see how bad things are? And for you to appear to not be worried or not be stressed, uh, a lot of times I see that as being interpreted, even that, just knowing, and you're only at peace because you recognize who you are. It's not boastful or anything. It's just because you know that you're safe. You know that God goes with you everywhere you go, uh, and you have a peace and a contentment with that. And so even that can be interpreted as arrogance and craziness uh, to this world. And we have that choice uh, to, uh, I think sometimes we just have that um, challenge to not be looked upon as odd or different. And so we play it small sometimes to fit in, is what I'm getting around to. It's not even that. I don't think we always forget who we are, or I think sometimes we just play it small to fit in to because this world is you can't win. I think once you realize you can't win, uh if you look too confident, uh then there's criticism. If you're not confident, then there's criticism. So we just have to show up in our authentic space as who we are. And I think that's what Marianne Williamson was really getting to, is when we just show up in the truth of who we are. As she says, playing it small doesn't serve anyone. It doesn't serve yourself and it doesn't serve others. You may feel like you're fitting in, but it's really not serving. I think it's people who are stressed and afraid, even though there's that thing that misery love company, that they want people to kind of feel what they feel. But the unspoken part is that they really want someone to show them that they're going to be okay. What they really want is they want that confidence. They want someone to say, hey, here's the other side of that coin. And the other side of that coin is that we are safe, we are loved, and everything always works out for our highest good. So even though we want to commiserate, and commiserating brings some instant gratification of comfort, but it's not real comfort. Uh, what we realize that we want is that person who shows strength in the midst of trouble, right in the middle of the fire, that shows that everything is burning up around me, but we're going to be all right. We're going to be all right. We're already all right. You still want that person to be around. You want that person around, no matter how much you want people to commiserate and get in your pain and in your sorrow with you. You want that strength and that light to be shining bright. And as you said, we are the Christ. It's not Christ out here, out there. In New Testament says Christ in you, the hope of glory. It's within you. And we need and we want that person around. That's the essence of that person's presence without them even making a statement of such. The essence of that person's presence is that we are safe and we are all right and we're going to be all right and we're going to continue to be all right. You do want that person in your midst, no matter how much the ego is saying, no, I want you to commiserate, commiserate, commiserate. We want that strength, and playing it small and recognizing the truth of who we are, the strength of who we are, always serves. And we just have to be confident that we are serving. We're not serving by saying, oh, woe is me. And then you say, yeah, woe is me too. Oh, my back been giving me trouble. Oh, yeah, my hip been giving me trouble too. you know, that's that kind of seems like what the world wants, but it really doesn't. Thanks.
Myrna?
I like that, yeah, just the knowing that we are all right, and that we don't even have to be all right. We already are all right, and that's what as Susan said, being in the moment is all about. Recognizing that in this moment, nothing is going to touch me, and staying in the moment, that's really, and it takes practice. We have to be willing to give it the practice that it takes. The course really is a mind training. It's saying, don't take me at my word. Okay, test it, do it, live it. Just now when I was listening to Susan just before you, Regis, and Susan you were almost in tears because you were so touched by what you were feeling. And the course says there were no private thoughts. I mean, that was really generated throughout. I was able to feel your love, that was coming through. I was feeling it because I was illuminated by the fact that you were just, it didn't even matter what you were saying. It was how you were just feeling. And, we could use words and symbols and on and on and on and on. But we need to just feel it, know it. That's it. And it's so simple. It's so simple, yet so difficult. And that's what, the ego is the part of us that takes us away from all of that. We waste so much time on nonsense, you know. Um, when we were talking about earlier about, that we think we ask for too much or we ask for too little. And I was going through the course, and if you look at 133, lesson 133, it says that, the second paragraph, where is it? 133. I thought it was lesson 133. Yeah, it is. You do not ask too much of life, but far too little. Second paragraph, when you let your mind be drawn to bodily concerns, to things to buy, to eminence as valued by the world, you ask for sorrow, not for happiness. This course does not attempt to take you from the little that you have. It does not try to substitute utopian ideas for satisfactions which the world contains. There are no satisfactions in the world. Forget the satisfactions that we think we derive from buying things, having things, doing things. And that generates emotions of envy, of jealousy, of recognizing that we need more when we really are relying on so little. What we want is really littleness. It's not the vastness of what lies beyond that, and it tells us, let's try, let's test all things you think you want. And there's really nothing I really want more than peace. There's nothing that I want more than love. There's nothing I want more than that, And once we have that, then then we're home free. There's nothing more to fear because we don't have to fear the little emotions that frighten us so, of the ego. And until you realize that, well, this is what I want, then you're ready to let go and let God.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Very well said. Everything we're saying here is just so beautiful. I'm totally connecting to Christ consciousness. Thank you, Myrna. Thank you, Regis. It's just wonderful what we're speaking about. I mean, truth is simple. The truth is simple. It's not easy because the world is run on the egoic thought system. Complexity is of the ego. The ego loves to analyze, the ego loves to dissect, but the truth is so simple. The only thing that's real is the love. The answer is always love, you know, and that's what Course in Miracles stresses. Uh, and then Regis was speaking about how so many of us feel like we need to stay small just to fit in, and that's so true. It reminds me of that line in the middle of Marianne Williamson's Our Deepest Fear poem. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people don't feel small around you. I mean, the world teaches us to shrink so other people will not be intimidated by us. But A Course in Miracles is saying, no, step into the greatness of who you truly are, step into the greatness of God. And once we are liberated from our own fear, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. So as we can like step into the greatness of God, as we can step into the greatness of who we truly are, we're giving other people permission to be great also. And as Regis says, it's the ego wants to commiserate with someone else, but the Holy Spirit, the our higher self wants other people to shine their light upon the world, and we want to, and our higher self wants to join other people in their light. I was feeling actually a little egocentric earlier today. I was feeling a little down for whatever the reason. And it's a friend of mine's birthday, and I called her up to wish her a happy birthday. And she lives in New Jersey, but she took a trip to Puerto Rico for a week to celebrate her birthday all by herself. She didn't even go with a friend. She went all by herself, and she was enjoying her birthday lunch and her birthday cake, and sharing a walk that she had on the beach when she met a gentleman from Puerto Rico who was beautiful and wonderful and holy and of God, and her joy, just kind of her joy kind of shifted onto me. I picked up her joy. I picked up her beauty. I picked up her wisdom and her love, and she just uplifted me. I felt so much better after talking to her, and that's what God wants. God doesn't want us to commiserate with our brothers and to stay low. He wants to share our beauty, share our love, share our joy, and pick our brothers up, because we can't connect to another person like down in the ego. Like there is no connection there. When we're down and we're commiserating and we're feeling sorry for us and we're focusing on lack, we can't connect with our brother, because that's illusory thinking. We feel separate, we feel alone. The only way we can truly connect with another person is when we connect with our God self, and then we can share our love with our brother, and we can remember the truth of who we are. And this is what A Course in Miracles is teaching us to do. And
Susan, there's
that's
something I
so
want to,
beautiful.
yeah, there's something I want to interject with, okay? That I just realized something, and I think I realized it before. I have everything I want. I have everything I need. I have everything I want. But Regis, you can appreciate this. I got this off the internet. I want to read it. Okay, I love it. Um, Listen to this. I have groceries to eat. I can still afford eggs. I have clean sheets on my bed. I have family and friends that love me. And I woke up today in my right mind. If that's not blessed, I don't know what is. Isn't that great? Yeah, I love that. You
That's
know,
that's
that's
perfect.
it. Isn't that
Yeah.
isn't that
And
perfect? And I
and it's right.
realize,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
It's right
there's
in
nothing that
my
I want.
thoughts. Yeah. I was having that exact thought, Myrna, and
Yeah.
I didn't know how to interject it because and so you end up seeing it on the internet and reading it because that that level of contentment
Mhm.
is Susan keeps talking about, we just want God, we just want God, we just want God. And within that, that's everything. But there's that thought system that's that there's that little, we call it the ego or the thought system or
Yeah.
whatever, that that wants to kind of sit out there on the outside and say, yeah, but if you get that content, it confuses it with complacency. There's that fear that, oh, well, just say if you're single, you just think, well, if I get content, then I'll never have a man or I'll never have a woman, because I'm so content. It's that the ego confuses it. It confuses this level of I have everything and I'm thankful right here, right now, with, oh, you'll be complacent and you'll never have anything materialistically, or you'll never have a mate or whatever. It just makes you feel like contentment is complacency, and it's not. To be grateful and thankful for all that I am right here, right now, all that I have right here, right now, is not to say that I won't. Love expands. See, it makes you, we forget that love is constantly expanding. Love is constantly uh, seeing beauty and appreciating and wanting. So you can say, I'm content. I have everything I want. That doesn't mean you won't buy a new chair
Yeah.
next year, but that thought system is there saying, oh, you can't just want God. You won't have anything else. you know, you won't have a career, you won't have a mate, you won't have a this, or you won't have a that. And so that's that confusion uh to just be thankful now, to have gratitude now. And that's what Susan was talking about. Right here, right now, that's all there is. uh it doesn't mean that you won't want to eat dinner this evening. you know but I'm content right now. Everything is perfect right now. I have everything I need right now. I have a full stomach. I have
Yes. Yes.
clothing and shelter right now. But that ego thought system is right there to say, oh, but what about tomorrow? And what about next year? And are you just going to keep driving this same old car for the rest of your life? And it confuses us right out of the peace. And it's like we in and out, because we're so quick to forget the true essence and the meaning of it all, and to start again, we got these eyeballs and it's always looking out at the world, you know.
Yeah.
And so that is a challenge, but it's a challenge that we can definitely thrive within, uh, and live in a place of peace and understanding of the truth of who we are, and that to rest in God is not to say I'm complacent. It is not to say I would never want to comb my hair, or put on some makeup, or or paint my, but that's the confusion that, like, oh, if you just go after God and nothing else, what will you be, or what will you become? But you will be, like Susan was saying, this whole session, that we'll be even greater, because love just expands. It expands. It grows. It shares. It's always giving and expanding, and but there's that trust, as Doug Fishman always teaches us. That little element of trust, uh, knowing that uh, everything else takes care of itself. The house, the car, the mate, you know,
Well, it takes
all that takes care of itself if I just rest in God. Yeah.
it does. It does. Yeah, I have
Well,
warmth, I
thank
have
you. Thank you,
comfort.
Annie. It's 4:06, so our time is just about us up. Did you have any final thoughts, Myrna?
No, I'm
Well,
good.
thank you so much,
Thank
Myrna. I
you.
love you so much. Thank you, Regis. Your wisdom just
Thank you.
added so
Thank you.
much to today's talk. Thank you. Thank you. And as A Course in Miracles says, nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. I'm so grateful for A Course in Miracles. I'm so grateful for you and for this Gather for A Course in Miracles platform. Thank you. Thank you. And I will now return the microphone to Lynn.
Beautiful sharing. Thank you.
It
Yeah,
was.
beautiful. Thanks you guys so very much. I appreciate it. And thanks, Regis, for coming in. Uh, all right. I will see you guys probably tomorrow morning, some of you. So I love you all and have a great